How you guys doing? My name is Ali Telford. I am the creator of the course Stock Trading Simple Beginner's Guide, now available on Udemy. I am also the author of the book Better Thinking Habits, the Introduction Edition, which is now available on Amazon as well as on, but now available on Amazon in ebooks as well as in paperback format. These live videos that I'll be posting is part of a package deal for all of my students whenever they sign up and they complete the course on Udemy. And in these live streams, we are going to be picking stocks as well as reviewing the previous day's stock trades. Right now, these videos are scheduled to be live Monday through Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Today is June 18th, and the time is 7:31 p.m. So let's get started. And I'm going to try to keep these lives as short as possible for right now. The first thing that we want to do is we want to look at, uh, let's take a look here. First thing we want to do is we want to look at our economic calendar. And like I said in previous videos, we want to make sure that we are repetitive in what we're doing in our actions. So with our economic calendar, yes, we can check it out for the entire week, but we're going to be checking it out on a daily basis. And today we decided that today would not be a good trading day because we had a lot of information that came out. The Feds decided to keep the interest rates the same. We had a lot of jobless claims information come out. Crude oil came out, but more than that, we had a lot of activity that was happening in the Middle East between Iran and Israel, which also had an impact on the market as well, especially with the oil trades. So we didn't really trade, but we did have a few stocks that we were looking at, and we're going to go over and review those. But before we do that, we got to see what's happening tomorrow. So right now we're looking at today's information, and we're not really going to go into this because, like I said, we really use our economics calendar just to help us decide whether or not we're going to be trading for the day or if we're going to be trading later on in the day. But we're just really looking at it to kind of gauge what information is coming out. So when we click on the tab for tomorrow, we see that it's a national holiday. So that basically means the stock market's going to be closed. So we really don't have to worry about doing anything. Tomorrow is Juneteenth, stock market's closed. So with that being said, let's go over to let's go over to TradingView, and we're going to look at the stocks that we had picked. I believe it was 2 days ago. We picked those stocks on Monday, and we've been keeping an eye on them. Today is Wednesday. Now, with this stock over here, NNE, I want to show you something. So here, let's enlarge that, and we're going to kind of go here and do this. So yesterday when we looked at it, we had put this line in place, and we said, because this red line right here is basically our area of resistance, and we knew that, and like I said, once it goes above it and closes above that line, we're going to buy it, because when we buy it here above this area of resistance, the chances are that the stock is going to continue rising all the way up to this area of resistance, which is at about $48.04. Right now, at the end of the day, today, the market closed at $37.97. At what they call post market, after the market closes, it's right back here at the area of resistance line at $37.20. Now, if the market was going to open tomorrow, most definitely I would buy this stock, and I would buy this stock, and I would basically ride the wave until it gets all the way up here. But now that we've seen that it's closed above this area of resistance, we're not going to be able to trade the stock tomorrow, but on Friday. And typically, I don't like being in trades over the weekend, which is Friday until Monday, especially with everything that's happening in the news with Iran, Israel, the United States, and everything else like that. But this stock, the reason why I would feel comfortable buying it is because of this right here. This is a manufacturing stock, and they produce electric products. So when you look at what's happening in the Middle East, it really doesn't affect that because we're not getting any minerals from that area. We're not having any manufacturings in that area. If it was an oil stock, I would stay far away from it. If it was an oil stock, and most people will say, well, why would you stay far away from the oil stock? And like I said, we're trading from the point of view of you guys being a beginner, you guys having a small account of about 500. You're not really trying to take risks and buy into oil stocks right now, and tomorrow or Friday, you know, the president says, hey, we've come to a deal with Iran now, the oil, so we don't have to worry about, oil transportation or oil prices, and everything drops. So you want to be as conservative as possible, saying that you're starting off with a $500 account, you're a brand new trader, you're not a market maker, you basically just want to follow the trends. And like we talked about in our course, we have our green line, which is on top and is pointing up. We have our red line at the bottom, and that's pointing up. So we know that we're in an upward trend. We have an area of, okay, I guess something's going on here. Let's kind of refresh that. Let's go ahead and reload that, and let's wait for that to reload. Okay, so that's what happens when you go live. Sometimes things like this happens. And let's go back to this stock. I don't know why that happened. All right. So let's go here. All right. So here we can see green lines on top, red lines on top, green lines pointing up, red lines pointing up. So we are in an upward trend, right? And now that we've passed this area of resistance over here, which is our nearest area of resistance, because this one right here is not our nearest. This is our nearest area of resistance and our most recent, well, let's say this, our most recent area of resistance. That's why we drew this line here, this black line, so represent that, right? And now that it's closed above it, we can see that right now, after post market, the post price, and let's go ahead and fix this line here so it lines up directly with the area of resistance. Because when I did this, I didn't, do it so straight. So let's fix that up a little bit, and let's go right here and let's fix that up so it's lined up perfectly. Okay, great. So right here, this is our area of resistance, this red line right here. And we just did this like you guys can represent it and see it a lot better. Now, right now, the market closed at 37.97. Post market, meaning after the market is closed to the regular general market, you still have, institutional traders, the people I call the market makers. They're still trading after hours for like an hour and a half or so. And so the stock came back down to $37.40, which, as you can see with this line, it's still well above your area of resistance. So I would buy this here first thing on Friday morning. I would buy it, and when I buy it here, I would set a stop loss right here below it at 37, maybe 37.17. And if you want to, you can actually just do it at 37. Let's just do 37.10. So we buy it here at 37.40, and we set our stop loss at 37.10. Right. So what that basically means is, if we were to buy one stock for $37.40, and it was not to go in our direction and go up, but it was actually to come down to this point, which is 37.10, guess how much money we've lost for that one stock? Because this is our stop loss right here. We're setting this line at 37.10 as our stop loss. That means we've only lost 30 cents. Okay, we put 30 cents at risk. Because once it hits that point, we have an automatic sell. And we talk about that in our class as far as always setting up your stop loss. But we put 30 cents at risk, and we're buying it at $37.40. And we expect the stock to go up as high as right here, $48.04, right? So there's an opportunity to make so much money with this stock. So we know that first thing Friday, we're going to go ahead and we're going to be buying that stock right here at this price, 37.40. It may move up a little bit during pre-market, may move up a little bit, may move down a little bit, but we already know that it's closed above this area of support. So we're going to buy it, and we expect it to go as high as $48.09. So let's see roughly how much money that would be, right? I can't do this on screen yet. Like I said, I'm still not really that familiar with, using all of this stuff right over here. So let's just do this off screen as far as the calculations, and I'll explain to you how that works. So right here, we expect it to go as high as $48, right? So let's say $48 minus, and right now the price is $37.40 minus $37.40. So that means if you bought one stock, you put 30 cents at risk, meaning we buy it here, we set our stop loss at 37.10, we'll lose 30 cents if we bought one stock at 37.40. But if we were to ride that stock up, we can make $10.06 off of that trade. That's only if you own one stock. Now, that's $10.60, right? Let's write that off screen, $10.60. So if you have $500 and you divide that by 37.40, which is what the current price is, you'll be able to buy 13 stocks. So you'll be able to buy 13 stocks if you have a $500 account as a beginner trader. So you would take that $10.40 and you'll multiply that by 13 because you'll be able to get 13 stocks instead of one stock. And that means you would have made $137.80 off of that one trade. Okay, so this stock is a stock that we had add on our watch list earlier in the week, and now it's got into position. We identified our buy point, our buy-in. We've identified our stop loss, and we've identified our take profit, which is where we would sell it and take the profit and run. Now, when we sell it and we take our profit here, and of course, you're not going to sell it exactly at $48.09. You're gonna sell it a little bit before it gets there, maybe at $47.50, because all of the other professional traders, they understand that once it gets to this point at $48.06 or $48 in the $48 range, that more than likely is going to go back down. So most of the institutional traders and professional traders, they're going to sell right before it gets to that area, because when it tanks, it's going to drop really fast. Now, if you sell it here, what you're going to do, like we talked about it in our class on Udemy, even if you sold it here and it stayed in this area, but we'll wait for it to break above this area of resistance, or we'll wait to see if a new area of resistance show up, and then we'll wait for it to break through that area of resistance and then buy it again and ride the waves up until it turns down into a downward trend. But right now, this stock is in a straight upward trend after we had identified the golden cross, like what we talked about in our class on Udemy. Here we can see that the green line's on top, it was going up. The red line's at the bottom, but it was pointing down, so that was not a true golden cross. It did not turn into a true golden cross, and you can see right here how the stock went up and then it came back down. But you notice the stock just continuously started going straight up once the red lines also started pointing up and the green line's pointing up. The green line's on top, red line's at the bottom, but they're both pointing in an upward movement, meaning we're in a clear uptrend. Unlike down here, where the red line's on top, green line's at the bottom, red line's pointing down, green line's pointing down. So now you can see we're in a clear downward trend where the stock just kept dropping until it had a crossover. Once we had the crossover, boom, we're in a clear upward trend. So this is a stock that I would say, first thing Friday, we can buy into it. And I would actually hold on to this stock over the weekend. The reason for that is because this is not a stock that's really, truly going to be affected by what's happening in the Middle East. If anything, because they're producing electric parts, this might actually benefit from that, because we're sending a lot of missiles and a lot of technology stuff over there. So we're not sure if they're creating any of those components, and that's something that you might want to look into. But as a beginner trader, you don't want to jump that deep into it. So you may not even have the time or care to watch the news right now. And I don't recommend that if you're trying to be a trader. If you're trying to be a trader, you most definitely want to know what's happening in the world. So I recommend to most traders that, I recommend that if you are going to get involved in trading the stock market, you make sure that when you wake up in the morning, you have your news feeds coming in, you stay up to date on what's going on. And I'm not talking about just watching CNN or Fox News. I'm talking about CNBC or, Yahoo News, because, or even investing.com, because there you're going to get real news based off of, this is what's happening out there in the world, and this is how it could affect the market. It's not just biased news or anything else like that. Now, there are stocks that we can screen today, but I don't want to screen those stocks today and kind of set up buy or sell points. We're going to do that tomorrow evening, because what I want to do is I want to see what happens tonight and what also happens tomorrow during the daytime with what's going on in the Middle East, see if there's any new information or any new things that's happening in the market. And then when I do my screening tomorrow, which is going to be Thursday evening, we can do the screener on FinViz and pick stocks for Friday. And like I said, typically I like to buy into my stocks by Tuesday and be out of them by the end of the week. There will be exceptions that you can make, but you have to take those things into consideration. And like I said, this right here will probably be a really good stock to buy on Friday. And we'll take a look at that together. All right. Once again, thank you guys for tuning in. This one's going to be a little bit shorter because, like I said, tomorrow, Juneteenth, market's going to be closed. And, we're not going to do any stock screening today due to the markets being closed tomorrow. If anybody has any questions or want me to look at any particular stocks, that they're interested in before before we go live or anything else like that, please go ahead and shoot me an email at adleytelford@gmail.com, or you can put a message in the comment below and make sure you put a date next to it, so this way I know to look at and do some research on that stock and address it when we go live. All right, guys, have a wonderful day. Thank you for tuning in.